Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where I've got the TNT takes for you on Australian Survivor, Heroes vs. Villains. That's right, it's a bit of off-season content, but the Australian Survivor Heroes vs. Villains season is pretty much just finished, so I don't know if I can actually call it off-season content, but a bombshell of information has dropped on the So Dramatic podcast. They're claiming that a producer of Australian Survivor has come out to say that this latest season of Australian Survivor was rigged. So I thought I would bring it up. I wanted to get your thoughts and opinions on this because this is some bombshell information. All right, so on the So Dramatic website, which I believe they've got a website and a podcast, so I've never actually listened to any of their stuff. They say that Australian Survivor Heroes vs. Villains 2023 has been rocked by explosive claims that the season was rigged. As revealed in episode 272 on the So Dramatic podcast, a Survivor producer who worked on the 2023 season spilled the literal beans, claiming that the show's outcome isn't as random as viewers may think. Producers deliberately rigged challenges and idol locations to help the right people win, the producer dished. For example, if someone has hold a sandbag or something, they will make the person they want to win hold a lighter sandbag. It's quite interesting because in this article, they're going to firstly claim that George was helped. And I remember the one where they had to hold weight above their head. That was the one where I believe Stevie went up against Nina in the puzzle and they ended up losing that one. Or it could have been even the one where they ran around with a sandbag around in the water around that obstacle course that went in and out, where again George's team lost that one. So I don't think they could have rigged those two ones at least. And then when it comes to idols, George only found one idol this whole season. I guess as Alliance people did find idols. Shonee found a couple of idols this season, which was interesting that she became such a great idol hunter. But again, it wasn't him directly necessarily winning it. So let's continue to see what they say. The producer also revealed that the show's voting process is also heavily manipulated. They also tell certain contestants in interviews when they are being targeted to give them a heads up, they claimed, and adding that they also tip off contestants about the best time to play or not to play an idol. That's something that I think a lot of fans have always been suspicious of. Like, what does producers tell players in those moments? Now, I know in the US, they can't do it because there's certain rules that a game show has to fall under, which means that there could be mass legal action taken against the US production team, I think under some sort of a gambling act or something like that, where they have to make it fair. I remember Jeff speaking about that before, where I don't know if the Australian Survivor is sort of held to the same type of legislation. In America, they can sue you almost for anything. I don't know if Australian Survivor is that heavily regulated. They also tell certain contestants who are being targeted, give them a heads up, as they claimed, adding that they also tip off contestants about the best time to play or not to play their idol. They would also tell other contestants who had idols, don't play it, you're safe, knowing that they would not go home. Yikes, that's some serious interference. It would be. It's a massive claim. Not only that, but they also alleged that producers reveal the location of hidden immunity idols to contestants. They will hide idols on pathways they know a contestant is about to walk along, they said. This is crazy to me, that if this is an actual producer, I want to know who this producer is. I hope it comes to light, because I feel like this person won't have a job after this, after dropping information like this. This sounds like fan-made fiction and what fans would do and say about seasons. This producer sounds like they're a fan, not a producer of the show. I mean, you would imagine that even if this was true and there were interference on Australian Survivor, there would be some sort of an NDA that they would have signed being on the show, which would prohibit them from talking about anything that happened on the show. So if this is an actual producer, they're going to be definitely taken to court after this, because this type of information, this type of claim by the So Dramatic people could have massive reputational cost to Australian Survivor as a brand. And if people actually thought that it was rigged, if it was true that it was rigged, I think Australian Survivor would lose a lot of popularity. But then again, I mean, you look at things like the WWE, people know that's rigged, people know that's an act, and they still watch it for the drama and the show. So I don't know, maybe it doesn't hurt them as much. But I think that if this is true, if this was a producer that was on the show, they're in some legal trouble for sure. All right, not only that, but they also allege that producers reveal locations to hidden idols to contestants. They will hide idols on pathways. Okay, so I've read that. Survivor Heroes vs. Villains was rigged to keep George Maldonado in until the end. According to the producer, George Maldonado was the main contestant who had things rigged in his favor. Survivor producers rigged George to get to the end by openly telling him where hidden immunity idols were placed, they claimed. Well, if that is the case, why did he only get one idol this whole game? And in the end game, we didn't even see idols. After Nina found that last one, we didn't see a single idol pop up after that. So why did they not give him another idol in the game? Or, yeah, I don't know. It falls flat for me on that. When George is going to the well, the producers would race ahead and place idols there for him to find, and then wait for him to arrive with the camera pointing at an idol. Again, like, he found one idol. So was there more idols potentially that he found that we just didn't see as an audience? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. They also alleged that George winning the Set for Life cash reward challenge, which saw him take home a whopping $60,000, was no coincidence. I saw people online talk about that, and they said, oh, the $60,000 was George's appearance fee this season. I don't know. I mean, listen, they needed a big character to come back and play this season for sure. If you didn't have Luke and David Gannat on there as two of the biggest characters to ever play an Australian Survivor, George probably would have been in that top tier bracket of players that they wanted to come back. Again, he said, she said at this stage. What evidence is out there? I'd like to see evidence. Shani Fairfax was told by the show's producer not to play her idol at One Tribal Council so that George didn't go home. They told her she would be safe, they said. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Because if they're alleging to the vote that Shani ended up going home, maybe George was in trouble. I can't remember who the other votes were on that specific episode. But it'd be crazy. Like, what is the chances of Shani and everybody playing this game staying quiet about it? Like, I mean, again, there are probably people could say, well, they're on an NDA, they can't speak. Well, what about this producer? How is this producer coming out and saying all this information? They would also be bound by the same NDAs, the non-disclosure agreements that they sign when they go out and do these shows. So it sounds very interesting. They also rigged challenges to ensure that the other team lost so George would be safe. In one challenge, they weighted down a card so the opposing team had to push a heavier load. That was an early part of the season where I do remember them winning that one, where they had to, I think the end of it was they had to build a fire to get to a bit of rope at the top. And it was against the grain that they actually won that challenge after losing so many challenges. But I don't know if George would have necessarily been in danger at that time because he was so heavily ingrained with Shani and the Spice Girls, and strategically they just dominated Simon's faction in that first tribe. Absolutely wild. George is amazing television and an amazing player, so we can really blame them. It's not the first time the show has been rocked by similar claims. Interesting. Might read into those similar claims a little bit later on. Earlier this season, fans accused the producers of playing favorites after contestants Nina Twine and Jerry Gulch were voted out of Tribal Council, but seemingly thrown a lifeline during an elimination. Well, Jerry was never really voted out. He had the second most votes. So in a normal vote, he wouldn't have gone home. Nina obviously did get saved in that spot, but I didn't really feel like Nina was ever being shown as a favorite of this season. I didn't feel like she got preferential treatment or that the show painted her in a picture where they wanted her to win it. I mean, the first half of the season, she was pretty much purpled, and we didn't really get to see much of her. So I don't know about that. And also, we do know I hate non-eliminations. I always hate non-eliminations. And Australian Survivor, if you ever listen to this video, you know what? You're not doing yourselves any favors by having non-eliminations, because people will always question, well, why did this person get saved at this point? Why, like, Geordie, the Joker, big character last season, got saved by a non-elimination. Hayley, one of the favorites. People say she's one of the best winners to ever play the game, got saved by a non-elimination, So people will always question that when you've got non-eliminations. That's why I like it to be clean, cut, and dry. Just vote someone out, get them out of there. The game's done. Your torch is snuffed. Your time in the game is over. Anyways, this is an interesting article I thought I would share with you. What's your thoughts on this? Do you think there is any validity in the game being rigged or not? Reality TV, this is no new news to us. There's always questions about, is the show fair? Is the show being rigged? These questions have been asked about Survivor US for years. There's people that have claimed that certain players were helped to idols, certain players were helped to get to the end. But I highly, highly doubt that there's any validity or truth to this. I would like to see who the producer is. I'd like their name to come out, because you can't hide behind I'm a producer of the show without actually it being proven. Because a lot of what was said sounded to me like a fan coming up with these ideas. But if that producer does exist and they do want to come on this channel to talk to me, I'd be more than willing to have you, because clearly you're not scared of non-disclosure agreements or anything like that. So reach out to me. You can email me by going to the about section of this channel, and you'll see my email on there, and I would be happy to sit down and have a conversation, because I think it would be a very fascinating and interesting podcast. But for now, that's all I have. Let me know in the comments section below what your thoughts are, what you're thinking about this. Hit a like on this video so it can be seen by more people. Subscribe to the channel. That has helped with the growth of the channel here. We're going to be doing plenty more Australian Survivor season content on the off season. But for now, catch your torches, head back to camp. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.